Skies would never have been there without the Wright brothers' revolutionary invention. On December 17, 1903, they were the first to get an aircraft off the ground in the United States. Soon we also started flying in Belgium. Henry Farman was the first who managed to take off and land safely. The airspace became busier and busier, and the risk of accidents increased. In 1910 near Milan, two planes collided for the first time during their flight. It was clear that better communication with the ground was needed. After the First World War and the Second World War, aviation technology had seen spectacular growth. All aircraft were equipped with a radio.
To coordinate their attack perfectly, these flyers must know the present position of our own tanks. They get this information by contact with the message center, which speaks and listens through the SCR-299.
The radio used to work with shortwave connections. After that period, it mainly worked with the very high-frequency aviation frequencies.
This is radar, an electronic eye penetrating darkness, cloud, and thickest fog to aim our guns and bombs, to bring our aircraft safely home, to warn against attack, against storms, against navigation hazards.
The invention of the radar in turn ensured that planes went further, better, and could be observed more accurately by air traffic controllers. After the war, everyone agreed flying is the new ideal means of transport in which we must invest heavily. So 52 countries, including Belgium, signed an International Civil Aviation Convention. After the Chicago Treaty, things started to go really fast. There were more and more novelties to ensure safety. From the start, safety was the most important priority for skies. This safety was guaranteed by the latest technologies. Think about the fixed frequency channels for radio telephony, radio beacons for navigation, landing systems, a positioning radar, and a landing radar. Thanks to this radar, the so-called Precision Approach Radar or PAR, the air traffic controller could constantly transmit course corrections to the pilot. Thanks to these latest techniques, the airspace became safer and safer. From 1946 onwards, 5 new airports were added. Today, we're used to flying to any country in the world, but that hasn't been so long. During the First World War, George Niels, pilot and officer in the Belgian military aviation, got convinced that there is a strong future for civil aviation. And this is how Sabena came into being in Brussels on 23 May 1923. Sabena became the national airline company of Belgium, with some domestic flights, and then also organized a scheduled service to Paris. Growth continued unabated in the 1970s. This was clearly noticeable when on July 1970, the first jumbo jet landed in Zaventem. The new Boeing was able to carry up to 550 passengers at one time, which was 2.5 times more than his predecessor. Airports were faced with the challenge of getting that large passenger supply managed. The Boeing 747 was the starting signal for an enormous growth. Since then, Sabena and other airlines had a huge flight. In 1995, Brussels Airport had less than 250,000 movements per year. In 2000, days with more than 1,000 movements were no exception anymore. Due to the increasing number of flights over Belgium, a new high-tech center for air traffic control was created. In 1993, CANAC was born. It was the Air Traffic Control Center covering the airspace of Belgium and Luxembourg. The system checks that the aircraft continues to follow its route, that it does not get too close to other aircraft, and if it's not flying too close to the ground. All this in less than 1 second.
Number 1845, continue descent to flight level 60.
And flight level 60845.
In the spring of 2009, Belgo Control inaugurated a new building on the Belgo Control site, the CANAC 2 Air Traffic Control Center. We started using this highly accurate technology in the 1980s. In order to avoid that, just like in 1910, 2 planes would collide again, It was important to map out this information in detail, and so the radars were renewed. For this new long-distance infrastructure, the airway management had to choose 2 locations in order to get a complete radar coverage of Belgium. Both radar stations were given the largest radar antenna used in civil aviation at that time. In 1965, Belgium finally had the most modern airport in Europe. The airport had a training center for air traffic controllers and a control tower simulator. Via TV screens and language labs, training sessions could easily be carried out. There was also a fully developed weather service with a first weather computer.
Regen en sneeuw, de 5-achste 800 voet en 8-achste 1500 voet.
The weather briefing on departing flights took place via a closed TV circuit. The weather forecaster presented his maps while the pilot downstairs could easily follow the briefing. But the showpiece of the air traffic controllers at the new airport was the control tower. 3 air traffic controllers controlled the traffic on all runways. But every time a pilot wanted to take off, he had to send the flight data to air traffic control. This was done via paper flight strips. In 2000, Belgo Control pioneered a revolutionary concept. They replaced these paper flight strips by electronic flight strips. We evolved from a monopolistic company to a more customer-focused organization. The motto of Skies, "Nice to guide you," reflects the new corporate culture and identity. We want to guarantee an even greater sense of safety for all users, from traveler and pilot to the key stakeholders.